Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. I hope you had a nice week and you're ready for the weekend. So a few stories to cover tonight. Of course, what's happening with Keir Starmer. Defending Radcliffe, we're going to see about that, where, well, he has his defenders, no matter what he says. A story on the Fuddy-Duddy Party, if you know who the Fuddy-Duddy Party is. Well, it's been replaced, it seems. And a few other stories. And, of course, the big one of this today is Palestine Action. So the court has ruled that Palestine Action cannot be a prescribed organisation. It's unlawful for the government to do so. So that's very interesting, considering some people I know were arrested as a result of being supportive of Palestine Action. Kevin Ladd, thank you so much for that super chat. Great to see you on the show tonight. Hope you're very well. Thank you for that. So let's jump into the first story, which is, of course, Peter Mandelson. Peter Mandelson is not going away. So Peter Mandelson has been asked to testify in the US Congress as part of the Epstein investigation. Let's have a listen to this.
Two members on the Congressional Oversight Committee, both Democrats, have written to Lord Mandelson to ask him to submit to questioning, all part of their ongoing investigation into the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In the letter, they said to the former British ambassador to the US, "It is clear that you possessed extensive social and business ties to Jeffrey Epstein and hold critical information pertaining to our investigation of his operations." Our US correspondent David Blevins has more from Washington.
The short answer is no, unless he chooses to do so of his own volition, because non-American citizens are not required to respond to any subpoena if indeed one is issued in due course. Important to remember, Jonathan, that this letter is coming from Democratic members of the Oversight Committee. That is the Congressional Committee on Capitol Hill investigating crimes related to Jeffrey Epstein. It is not coming from the committee formally as a whole. Having said that, it is the Dems on that committee who have really led the way in terms of their call for those who are mentioned in the files to come forward and tell the committee what they know. You will remember that the Democratic Congressman Suhas Subramanian and Robert Garcia, who's the ranking member of the committee, the men who've written this letter to Lord Mandelson, were also the first people to call for the former Duke of York, former Prince Andrew, now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, to also come forward and answer questions. He has not responded at this stage. It'll be interesting to see if Lord Mandelson chooses to do so. In their letter, they point out the number of times he's referenced in the files, images related to him in the files, and they clearly believe the former UK ambassador to the United States has questions to answer on Capitol Hill.
He definitely has answers. So many people have answers, and I think there's a real onus on both Andrew and Peter Mandelson to go to the United States, to go and answer questions, to respond to what they know, to tell Congress what they know. David McGuinness, thank you so much for that super chat. Good news for me, I won't be a terrorist anymore. I was just thinking of you today, David, and maybe I was meant to get you on the live stream before, but it'd be great to do a live stream with you to tell us about your experience. Now that you're no longer a terrorist, it's insane. And we'll get into that story a little bit later. But thanks for that, David. And it's great that, I was actually thinking about it today, and I was thinking perhaps people like yourself could have a claim against the British government for compensation because your life has been upended in this way. I don't know the mental harm it has done to yourself or others. Being arrested by the police, being dragged to a police station, being interrogated, and at the end of the day, you've done nothing wrong, and the law is on your side. I would imagine that you already knew that was going to be the case, but I imagine a lot of people were fretting over all of this. And some individuals have even gone on hunger strike. I don't know if they're still on hunger strike, but a number of individuals did go on hunger strike over this. So I would say, I don't know, I'm not a legal expert, but I would imagine that some people have a case against the government over this. And we have to ask the question, why did the government go ahead with this? What was their legal advice? Because Yvette Cooper, when she was the Home Secretary, said that there was a real threat to national security. So did the Supreme Court or the High Court, the evidence they saw, did the government withhold evidence, or did they see all the evidence and come to the conclusion that there was no security issue, or the security issue was not enough to warrant prescribing Palestine action? But it's great news that weight has been lifted off you, David. It's insane that it had to be put on you in the first place. Just back to Peter Mandelson, I really hope that Peter Mandelson does the decent thing and go to Congress, go to the US, go to Congress and speak about what his experience was with Peter Mandelson, with Jeffrey Epstein. There's no obligation on him to do it, but there's a moral one, I think, and it would be the right thing to do. And I think the British government, or at least Keir Starmer, should apply pressure, maybe behind closed doors, but put some sort of pressure on him to go there and tell the truth about what happened. So, as I said before, this is the big story, one of the big stories for tonight. You can't really see that. Let me move that a little bit over. Not sure what's happening with my screen today. Let me try and fix that. Okay, there we go. That's a bit better. Palestine Action wins High Court challenge over government's terror ban. So it was the High Court, not the Supreme Court. The decision to ban the group was unlawful and disproportionate interference with the Human Rights Act, specifically the freedom of expression and freedom of assembly, a judge rules. The government said it intends to take the case to the Court of Appeal. I think it will be struck down by the Court of Appeal. It'll be rejected by the Court of Appeal. I don't think they have a leg to stand on, because if there was evidence to back up the claim that it was necessary to prescribe this organization, surely they would have presented this evidence to the High Court, but they haven't. So, or if they have, it wasn't sufficient. So I don't see how the Court of Appeal would overturn this decision. Don't feel bad for Mandelson. I hear the role of child catcher has become vacant in the kingdom of Bulgaria. Jacob Rees-Mogg is the prime rival, however. Yes. Thanks so much, Freckle Bunny. Yes. Jacob Rees-Mogg is it's his old stomping ground, I think. Thanks for that. Palestine Action co-founder has won a legal challenge over the group's ban as a terrorist organization on two grounds. However, it will remain unlawful for now, as the government intends to take the case to the Court of Appeal. Hudma Amari launched the challenge after the former Home Secretary Yvette Cooper's decision to proscribe the group, which came into force in July last year. It followed action by members of the group that included breaking into RAF Braze Norton and spray painting two aircraft. The ban put Palestine Action on the same footing as ISIS and Al Qaeda, making membership on or support of a criminal punishment by up to 14 years in prison. So I don't know if the organization is still illegal, but are they going to arrest people over this? Are they going to put people in jail over this? Well, it's I think I would imagine they're going to stop a lot of the action. Oh, David also put a comment in the chat. Let me have a look at David's comment. David says, if it remains after appeal, then the other David and I are going to go after the government. Well said. And you have my full support. If this is because you and the other Davey were affected by this, I know from speaking to you, and you'd have every right to go after the government. The whole basis of this was very shaky. I mentioned how the Conservatives, when it came to the Rwanda plan or the Rwanda deal, they didn't check whether it was actually lawful. They didn't check whether the Supreme Court would rule against them. What sort of lawyers did the Tories have working for them, that they didn't think maybe we should check to see if it's safe to send people to a country which we allow people to come from and claim asylum. Once again, the Tories were trying to sell the idea that I'm getting confused with Palestine Action. The Tories were trying to sell the idea that Rwanda was a safe country. But at the same time, they were granting asylum to people from Rwanda, which doesn't make any sense. So when they failed at proving that Rwanda was a safe country, they legislated for Rwanda to be a safe country, which is insane, which is illogical. And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. Just by you legislating that something is safe doesn't make it safe. In the same way as they could have legislated that the NHS waiting list was 0, or that the boats had stopped crossing the English Channel. Just legislate. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to operate within the realms of reality. All you do is just say something. So that's what they were trying to do. Legislate that Rwanda was safe. And the Supreme Court said, no, it's not. So we're not going to allow you to send people to Rwanda. And at the end of the day, how many? 3 people went, or 1 guy went, and it was somebody who went voluntarily. They were paid £3,000 to go. But nobody suffered any consequences. The Conservatives, I've said this before, if the Conservatives messed up, they should have paid the £750 million it cost for the Rwanda scheme. In this case, if there are people suing, maybe Keir Starmer or Yvette Cooper should pay the compensation, because they're the ones who made this decision. Why should the taxpayer have to pay the victims here? Shouldn't it be the political party that made this decision? Because if political parties, I know this is not going to happen, this is just me ranting, but if political parties had to pay compensation to the victims of their policies, maybe they'd be less likely to waste public money in the future and make stupid decisions. They would be. Maybe we should actually have a think about this. Is this actually a good idea? Reagan, thank you so much for that super chat. Reagan Elite, Israel needs to get out of our politics. Yes, of course, the motivation behind this was the Israeli lobby, it seems. They were the ones who were pushing it. Otherwise, the government would have published the criteria, the evidence that they had to link Palestine action to some sort of terrorism. They would have said, this is the evidence. Like, they wouldn't have to undermine the security checks or the security services. They wouldn't have to name names, or they wouldn't have to give details, but they could have actually said, this is the evidence, more or less, at a very high level. We believe this organization has engaged in this type of terrorism, and this is why we're prescribing it as a terrorist organization. But they didn't do that. They just said, yes, we believe that they're a terrorist organization. That's basically all they came back with. Evening, ducks. How's Quackers? Hope you're all very well tonight, and great to see you all on. So this is a representative from Palestine Action speaking about this.
Banning Palestine Action never banned direct action as a tactic, and people are able to continue direct action against weapons factories if they so wish, just not under the Palestine Action banner, or that would be a terrorist offence. And I think that is really clear. The reason Palestine Action was prescribed unlawfully, let's be clear on that, is because of property damage against the weapons trade, the Israeli weapons industry. Property damage of weapons which otherwise would have been used to massacre people in Gaza. Palestine Action was about saving lives. It's the very opposite of what people consider terrorism to be. And that's why we're so grateful that the High Court has come to this decision today.
So, if the government had actual real evidence to say, look, this is a terrorist organization, then they should have presented it. But once again, they can't fall back on, well, we can't present it for security reasons. Well, then they must either presented it to the High Court, and the High Court said, no, this is not sufficient, or they refused to present this evidence to the High Court. And in this case, if they don't present evidence, then hearsay is not sufficient. Going on your word is not sufficient. So I don't see how this will be overturned by the Court of Appeal unless the government present the evidence. And it doesn't seem to be the case that they have any, or if they do, it's insufficient. Anyway, guys, let's move on to our next story. So, as we know, there is a by-election taking place very soon in Gorton and Denton. So, the Independent went out and interviewed a few people here. So, let's what they had to say.
Why wouldn't you vote for the party anymore?
Oh, I mean, I don't like Starmer. I don't like what he's done. He's tells porcupine. He seems to do.
If we save
over Britain, we need to support Green Party.
He gets laughed at, Farage.
My vote is for a Green Party. Not only my vote, my friends, my colleagues, and my all families.
Okay, but convince them to go out and vote. Don't just say we're going to vote for the Green Party. Go and vote for the Green Party. That's what's necessary. Because a big problem with these vox pops is people will say, yeah, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then they don't. That's not sufficient. You need to actually vote.
I was always a Labour voter, brought up that way. I'm a union man. At this moment, I wouldn't know. I'd probably head towards reform at the moment.
God. You're a trade unionist, and you're going to vote for Reform UK. We're not near Christmas, but if we were near Christmas, I would have mentioned the turkeys voting for Christmas. I honestly don't understand this. You're a member of a trade union. He said it himself. I'm a union guy. I'm a union man, and I'm going to vote for reform. Like the anti-trade union party. They're literally the most anti-trade union party in the House of Commons. Worse than the Tories, because it's the leftovers of the Tory party. It's the worst of the worst are in Reform UK. It's not even they're like the Conservatives. They're the trash of the Conservative Party is in Reform UK. So the people who really, really hate trade unions are in Reform UK, and somebody who is a member of a trade union is going to vote for reform. At what stage do we stop having sympathy for the conned? Because we've been down this road before. Nigel Farage telling people if we vote to leave the European Union, everything will be better. Name a problem, leaving the EU would fix it. Then when leaving the EU didn't fix it, it's not his fault, it's the Tories' fault because he wasn't in charge. And it's not Brexit's fault, it's because the Tories didn't take advantage of Brexit. So it's always somebody else's fault, never Nigel Farage's fault. In 2019, Boris Johnson got in. He was supposed to get everything done, improve the situation for ordinary people. And then, of course, that failed. But it's nothing to do with Nigel Farage, who stood aside to make sure that Boris Johnson won a majority. Nothing to do with Nigel Farage again. And now he's running on the same ticket. Vote for me and I will improve everything for you. And then these people will come out and they'll vote for Nigel Farage or reform. And then they're going to be asking themselves what went wrong. How is it possible that Nigel Farage, who never done a fucking job in his life, in a sense, when he was in politics, he was supposed to represent his constituents when he was a member of the European Parliament. He didn't bother to do that. How is it possible that Nigel Farage, who's never held any surgeries, as far as I can see, as a member of Clacton, as a member of Parliament for Clacton, is no longer doing stuff for people? Like, at what stage would these people wake up?
Only on the basis, no racist tones to that, just on the basis they seem to offer more than the mainstream parties do.
What do they offer? What is Nigel Farage offering? Yeah, he's going to cut taxes for the richest people. I'm not a rich person, but I'm going to vote for a guy who's going to cut taxes for rich people.
On the basis of getting some stability.
So we are looking at green.
Green.
But whether it'll just be a wasted vote, like they say, I don't know. But if all those who voted for Labour who don't now, and such of us, we probably might just be able to...
I vote Conservative.
I love this old lady. Sorry, no offence if she's watching this. I don't mean old as in a negative way. I love this old lady in the sense that she's an older person who's voting for the Green Party, but she's not voting for the Green Party in the old way of she's middle class. She doesn't sound like she's middle class, and I don't mean that in an offensive way. She sounds like salt of the earth type of person. She sounds like a working class woman, and she's voting for the Green Party. This gives me a bit of hope, because it means that the Green Party are able to reach out beyond the middle class, professional type that would normally vote for the Green Party. So it seems they're able to reach out to maybe some traditional Labour voters as well. So it's great to see.
No, but if all those who voted for Labour who don't now, and such of us, we probably might just be able to...
I vote Conservative again on the chance that we'll get Labour out.
Okay. I'm going to vote Conservative to get Labour out. So it's a switch around from 2024. Your people vote, I'm going to vote Labour to get the Tories out. So somebody's getting their revenge. No, it's not really, I like the Tories and just vote. I just hate the Labour Party, it seems, according to Robert.
Do you feel sort of betrayed by the Labour Party?
I do. As a working class man, yeah.
I used
Jesus Christ. I'm working class. I'm going to, like, he's even calling himself working class, and he's going to vote for reform. You know, I understand people are angry. I understand that some people are willing to vote for reform in order to give the government a bloody nose. I would, if people just said, look, I'm really angry with the Labour Party, I'm going to punch them in the nose and vote for reform. You can sort of understand that. But why would somebody vote for reform thinking that they would actually improve the situation?
before give the Labour, but they disappointed us very much.
They have absolutely run this country into the ground, and they're going to keep doing it.
So I'm going to vote for the Conservatives, because the Conservatives didn't run the country into the ground and keep doing it.
Always been a Labour, always Labour, and but not anymore now.
And why is that? Why wouldn't you vote for the party anymore?
Oh, I mean, I don't like Starmer. I don't like what he's done. He tells porcupines, doesn't he? Seems to do.
I love this term, tells porcupines. Keir Starmer is a drag on the party. They need to replace Keir Starmer. You know, some people are angry with Keir Starmer and they're punishing the party. Now, I'm a guy who believes in policies. You should be voting based on policies, not on personalities. But a lot of people are going to vote based on personalities. People are going to vote for reform because they like Nigel Farage. They know nothing about the policies. They don't know anything about what he stands for. But he seems like a nice type of guy. Okay, he seems like the guy you'd like to have a pint down the pub with. And people will vote based on that. Other people will vote against Labour because they're not happy with Keir Starmer. And I don't know how this vote is going to go in Gorton and Denton. Let me share something privately with you guys, okay? So my gut is telling me Labour will hold on to this, but my head is telling me it will go the Greens or Reform. So I think I haven't decided yet whether it's going to go to the Greens or it's going to go Reform. So I think there's a lot of support for the Greens in Gorton and Denton. But they don't have the machine on the ground that Reform do. And Reform obviously have their friends in the media. They have Talk TV, they have GB News pumping out pro-Reform stuff all the time. And that filters down into the minds of people who are upset, people who are angry with the status quo. And we know when it comes to by-elections that turnout will be lower than a general election. So the only people who will turn out are people who are motivated. And it's very difficult to motivate people to vote for Labour at the moment. You know, the motivated people who are the Labour supporters will come out and vote for them. People who traditionally vote for Labour, who are worried about Farage, will come out. But the majority of people, a lot of people will stay at home because they can't be bothered. There's no motivation there. But it's going to be, I think, at the end of the day, it's going to be the Greens versus Reform. And I have a fear, and I hope I'm wrong here, but I have a fear that Reform will win it. It's a sort of nagging itch on the back of my head that's telling me Reform are going to win it. I think based on the amount of stuff they're pumping out into the constituency, they're campaigning like hell. And I mentioned this before. I said what they're going to do is they're going to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at this constituency because they have nothing to lose. There's a real opportunity for them to win this, and then they would have another MP in the House of Commons. That would be a huge boost for them. The Greens are doing a great job, I think, in campaigning, but they don't have the same money as Reform they have, of course. They don't have the ground team that Reform has as well. So, of course, I would like to see Reform defeated here. Labour or the Greens win this. But my gut is telling me that it's actually going to be held by the Labour Party because they have such a big majority there. But time will tell.
Their priorities are totally different from your working class man or the people of Gorton.
Would you have voted for Labour?
Sorry. Labour's and he's going to vote for Reform because he thinks Labour's oh my goodness.
Like Starmer, I don't like what he's done. He Tells porcupines, doesn't he? Seems to do.
Their priorities are totally different from your working class man or the people of Gorton.
Would you have voted for Labour if Andy Burnham was the candidate?
Yes, definitely.
There we have it. If Andy Burnham had been the candidate, she would have voted for the Labour Party. That's really telling, and a lot of people are saying this. So this could be the Tories 500 to 1. They're good odds, if you're willing to make a bet. Goodwin is really good. Good. Is that a sarcastic comment or not? He's good at campaigning, good at representing people, and the people of Clacton can reach out to the people of Gorton and Denton and tell them, if you vote for reform, Matt Goodwin is going to spend as much time in your constituency as Farage does in ours. Okay, this is a guy who's London-based, who's a commentator on GB News. He's not going to care about the ins and outs of the troubles that are facing people in Gorton and Denton. He's not going to have a surgery open, listening to people talk about NHS waiting lists or getting access to affordable housing. He's not going to listen to these problems. He's not going to be asking these questions on people's behalf in the House of Commons. He's just there to prop up Farage, and of course probably have, it's an ambition of his to become an MP. You think, this would be great. I'd love to be an MP, not because I want to serve people. It's just from my own personal ambition. Regularly, thanks so much for that super chat. It's time to go back. It's time to back the monster raving loony party. I actually reached out to them and I said, hey, have you had any defections yet from Reform? The by-election debate, Goodwin won the debate. There was a debate? I didn't see the debate. I saw a clip about a debate, but I didn't know that there was a debate, so I want to see that, actually. Are you fucking listening to that, Labour? Let Burnham in. Yeah, if Andy Burnham had run in this constituency, he would have likely won the seat. Now, Starmer, of course, didn't want him to run because he would be a threat to Starmer. And now we're talking about Starmer probably resigning. So that was a great move, wasn't it? Let's keep Andy Burnham out. Now, it's likely that Labour will lose this seat. And then Andy Burnham will be like, I told you so. And then people will be saying, maybe we should back Andy Burnham after all. Brad, thanks so much for that super chat. Great to see you on the stream tonight. Vote Goodwin to get £10,000 off Manchester Police. I think Brad believes that the reward will be similar for similar to Farage as well. I thought it'd be a bit less because Farage is such a high profile figure. At least $5,000. More or less $5,000, not 10. Anyway.
Definitely.
No.
And why is that?
Because I like him. He's very honest, and I think he's honest. He works hard.
I think Andy Burnham looks after Andy Burnham. I think Andy Burnham thinks he's some kind of rock star.
And do you think...
And Nigel Farage doesn't. At least Andy Burnham is doing stuff in Manchester. There's infrastructure that has been built thanks to Andy Burnham. The transport system has been improved thanks to Andy Burnham. He's attracted investment thanks to Andy Burnham. Nigel, and he says, yeah, well, I don't like Andy Burnham because he thinks he's some sort of rock star or superstar. And Farage doesn't?
Starmer made a mistake blocking him then. Do you think that's cost Labour a lot?
Yeah. A lot of people were very disappointed.
And what do you think of Reform?
Nigel Farage. He's about as much use as Jeremy Corbyn.
So you don't trust Farage?
It's a strange comparison to make. He's as much use as Jeremy Corbyn. Use for what?
He's useless when he needs somebody. Oh, if people have some respect for, he gets laughed at. Farage.
He does certainly get laughed at, yes. Stu, thank you so much for that super chat. Great to see you on the stream tonight. Hope you're well. Things are getting done long before Labour got into power. Evening, everyone. Evening, Pete. So let's... we're almost at the end, at the middle of the live stream, so I want to take a short comedy moment, and then we'll be back in just a jiffy with more serious stuff. Hope you enjoy this.
The President of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, is mentioned extensively in these files, although the BBC aren't covering that for reasons. Are there more questions for Trump to answer now?
Sorry, what was the question?
Are there questions for Trump to answer over multiple allegations against him by women who were teenagers at the time?
So, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, having lost his royal titles and being forced to live in a different mansion to the mansion he was in before, has surely been punished enough.
Surely punished enough, yes, of course he has. Anyway, let's move on. So
we're in this ridiculous situation where we have 3 acting cabinet secretaries, and then you have senior officials say, how about the Prime Minister goes slow on this appointment? I mean, go slow. They don't have time to go slow anymore. They've wasted 18 months in office faffing around, arguing with themselves. You know what I mean? It's like, and then officialdom says, go slow. It's like, okay, that's fine for you, but for the sake of a stable government using its massive majority to effect some kind of change in the country, it's a democratic nightmare.
Let's talk about somebody who's not only just being rude to people, but sacking them. Keir Starmer overruled senior officials in order to sack his Cabinet Secretary Chris Wormold and approve a $260,000 payout, despite objections from the civil service. It's another row to cap off the PM's dreadful week. As the Prime Minister disappears under the waves, he sent in his Minister for Floods and Water, Emma Hardy, speaking to Callum and Chloe on Times Radio Breakfast.
Genuinely, all I know about this current situation is that it was a mutual decision, and they decided that it was time for a change. And I mean, I've not met Chris personally, but I would, I have a huge amount of respect for all of the civil service and pay tribute to the fact that he's been working as a civil servant for such a long time.
Now, I was listening to that interview as I walked my unclothed dog in the park, and
your pervert dog,
Callum started the interview, and I was fascinated because if I'd been Emma Hardy, I would have been able to say, I haven't got a clue. I've no idea why he sacked Chris Wormold. So at that moment, you kind of feel, I felt for a government minister, you are in that situation, which we've seen so much before with the Tories, of government ministers coming on effectively, Patrick, to defend the indefensible.
Yeah, indeed. It's interesting that the line they've given to government ministers this morning is, it was a mutual decision. I mean, it's mutual in the sense that a pigeon with a broken wing getting eaten by a fox and not moving away from the fox, it can't, is mutual. You know what I mean? They have been briefing against Chris Wormold for months.
Okay, before we get to this, this is what's happening within the government, and it's starting to, I'm sorry to say, it's starting to look a lot like the Tories, where you have people within the party briefing against others, number 10 briefing against somebody else, this person briefing against number 10. And I have to wish Doug a happy birthday, even though it's tomorrow. So I see everyone's asking me to sing. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you know the drill. Stick your fingers in your ears in 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Doug. Happy birthday to you. Now you can remove your fingers from your ears, everyone. Many happy returns, Doug. And you've been with the channel for so long, I don't know, I should send you a bone. Anyway, let's get back to this.
First briefing against Chris Wormold that Starmer was disappointed with his cabinet secretary appeared in The Guardian last summer. Then Gabriel Pogren and I revealed that he was definitely going to be sacked, I think in October or November. I mean, we said he was going to be sacked in January, so, he was sacked after January, so we were half right. But we did say he was definitely going to be sacked. Now he has been sacked. It is, and that's the third cabinet secretary. Labour is about to hire its third cabinet secretary, or if you count the 3 interim ones, it's 7th in.
Max, I'm jealous. I have to wait until next January. What you do is, don't remind me. Don't say it now, but maybe next week. Tell me it's your birthday, and I'll wish it. Because my memory is terrible. So if I haven't, I'm sorry I didn't wish you happy birthday before. You should have told me before in January. I'm not going to do it now because it'd look really bad. But tell me next week sometimes, hey, Max, it's my birthday.
Little more than 18 months in power. So Yeah, look, it's not ideal, and because of the political volatility this week, I think the magnitude of what they've done is being overlooked, if anything. You know, they've sacked the most senior official. You know, this is classic Keir Starmer. This happened during opposition as well. You sort of, that person's to blame, no, that person's to blame, no, that person's to blame, no, that person's to blame, that person.
I agree. Look, I'm not a huge fan of this journalist, Patrick Maguire, but I think he's correct here. And as David McGuinness said in the chat, a fish rots from the head down. Thanks for that. And you're completely correct. You need to take responsibility for this. You know, when it came to Peter Mandelson, it's Peter Mandelson's fault because he lied to us. You knew what Peter Mandelson was like. You know, if this information had come out and it was about anyone else, you could say, okay, the vetting process failed to pick up somebody. I had a birthday last year. Now you only get once. Don't chance your arm. But now I've lost my train of thought. Wonderful. Too many birthday requests. But when it comes to the leader, they have to take responsibility. You can't, Peter Mandelson, we didn't know about Peter Mandelson being friends with a paedophile. You of course you knew. You were just hoping that people would not notice. You were hoping that any storm within the party over this would sort of die down and people would forget about it. That was the goal. Just hopefully nobody will notice. Nobody will notice that Peter Mandelson was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. It's not that people won't notice. Of course they would. Like, there's no way Starmer can get away. I think the problem here is Blue Labour. The problem here is Morgan McSweeney. Sweeney is gone now. But what he's left behind is an absolute disaster. 18 months when work could have been done to improve people's lives, to turn... If you remember, before Starmer appointed Morgan McSweeney, he was actually doing quite well in the polls. But you know what was doing damage to them? It was all these gifts, all these presents that members of the cabinet were receiving, including the Prime Minister. He's getting this from this person, he's getting that. That was pissing people off. But it was really that wasn't doing so much damage. People were like, okay, well, they're politicians, we expect that. It's not great. But what really pissed people off were these policies being pushed by Blue Labour, by Morgan McSweeney and Blue Labour, when it came to immigration, when it came to the two-child benefit cap, when it came to the winter fuel allowance, taxes, stuff like this. All these things were pissing people off, and Blue Labour said, no, you keep going with it. And it's Keir Starmer who's suffering the consequences now, but he has to take responsibility.
Person might have been friends with a paedophile at some point. That person lied to us, and it's just everybody goes into the combine harvester to preserve Keir Starmer's position, and that's the place the government is in now.
It is. There's no way around this, because I remember when Chris Wormold was appointed, lots of people said this is the wrong decision. He's not up to the job.
Mandy is correct, and I think Mandy has been listening to me as well. Or maybe Mandy came up with it herself. Blue Labour needs to be a prescribed organisation. I agree. Blue Labour is doing more damage to the Labour Party than Reform is doing. Like, Nigel Farage is not that big of a threat, because Nigel Farage can be outmaneuvered if you put in decent policies that improve people's lives. You can defeat Nigel Farage. He could not come anywhere near Labour. But Blue Labour, the Morgan McSweeney wing, the Maurice Glassman wing of the party, they're the ones who are undermining Labour, telling them you need to focus more on immigration. Remember the Red Wall. We need to be socially conservative, economically left-wing, but socially right-wing. But you can't be that way, because if it's about policies, then the policies should be focusing on ordinary people. And if you're talking about immigration and you're talking about how immigration is a massive problem, then of course it's going to filter into the economics, because you're going to say, well, we're spending too much money on immigration. We should be spending on something else. We should be punishing people who are staying in these hotels and this emergency accommodation.
So appointing him was a mistake. Sacking him now is a mistake. And actually, again, listening to Callum's interview, the thing that came over me in terms of political antenna, if you like, is the 250 grand payoff. People be really irritated and
of course, but most people will not know about this. So I don't think this is a big story. Most people won't know who this individual is, the permanent secretary. But it just shows that the government is not in control. We're looking at the symptoms and we're not looking at the core problem. The core problem is there's no vision. I keep saying this. Labour have no vision at the moment. And I would love to ask somebody who's a member of the Labour Party to tell us what the vision is. What do they hope to achieve by the end of this Parliament? Because if you have a vision, you can take people with you, even going across rough territory, rough roads. You can drag them across those roads. But if they know that at least at the end there's going to be an El Dorado, there's going to be a payoff. It's going to be difficult. We're going to have to stick with the party. We're going to have to make these difficult decisions. But at least at the end, there is a massive payoff because this is what we want to achieve. And we've all signed up to this. It's like if you go to the gym in order to build muscle or to lose weight, you know that, look, it's difficult. It's a pain in the arse. I have to get up early. I have to go to the gym. I have to work out. I have to stress myself. I have to stress my body. But at least I know what the goal is. When it comes to the Labour Party, what is the goal? It's like just stumbling from crisis to crisis. Oh, we tried this, it doesn't work. Okay, we do a U-turn. We try this, oh, it doesn't work because the parliamentary party doesn't want to go along with it. We do a U-turn. You can't do it like this because this is only going to embolden the Conservatives. You know who's benefiting from this? The Conservatives, not Reform UK. Because it keeps coming back to this point. If people are not happy with the status quo, they'll go somewhere else. Now, people will be not happy with Labour with the policies, but when it comes to the chaos, the Conservatives, ironically, will be able to stand up and say, hey, we're a serious party. Of course they're not, but they will be relying on people's short memories. So Kemi Badenoch, if you listen to what Kemi Badenoch has been doing constantly over the last number of months, is talking about how her party is professional, how her party is not chaotic. And she'll be able to sell that. It's hypocritical. It's a pile of crap, but it's the narrative. The narrative is we are the stable party. Labour are in chaos. And Labour's not helping themselves. Anyway, let's move on to our next story, which is, of course, Mr. Radcliffe. And he's been defended here by, well, another sort of tax dodger.
For Education Secretary, Chancellor of the Exchequer, and of course he chaired the Conservative Party, Nadim Zahawi, the great Zahawi, sitting opposite me in the LBC studio. It's good to see you, Mr.
Good morning.
Zahawi.
How
Is it
are
right? You crashed the internet or something?
For probably about 48 hours.
Why? Why did you say
everything, I guess, a slow news day maybe, I don't know.
Right,
but it was an important moment. It was an important moment for me, certainly.
Yeah. Tell us about the courtship.
So I tell you, look, even before the courtship, if you think about country ahead of party, if you think of your
country ahead of party. It's like, yeah, I was in. Why is this man not in jail? That is a very good question. Why is this man not in jail? Resign Nick Ferrari, a rat's jumping ship. Yeah, yes, didn't he lose his seat, or I don't remember whether he lost his seat or he stepped down before. I don't remember which it was. Anyway, he avoided facing the wrath, or I think he resigned before. I don't think he lost his seat. But anyway, it's not important. He's no longer a Conservative, no longer an MP. So where does he go? Well, where all the other trash of the Conservative Party go, to Reform UK. At least I used to think he was a moderate, but I think he's one of these moderates who realize, hey, this is the way the wind is blowing. Maybe he's not even a moderate. This is the thing. It's like Robert Jenrick. Robert Jenrick used to be a moderate. Well, allegedly, because he used to be somewhere in the centre of the Conservative Party. And then, over a very short period of time, he became, to the right of the BNP. So Nadine Zawari probably sees an opportunity here to get into government or to make some money.
family, your community, your country. As James Orr would tell you, there was only one.
Oh yes, it was him. It was him that was making jokes. No, it wasn't. It wasn't actually Zawari who was making jokes about spiking drinks. That was James Cleverly.
Conclusion you can come to, and that is we've got to get round Nigel Farage, build capacity, build experience, a team that can actually hit the ground running, because the current lot, I mean, I have to say, there's a lot to apologise for the previous administration, which I was part of, and as you just quite rightly outlined,
So the people, the arsonists who made an absolute disaster over 14 years, what you need to do is you need to rebrand them and put them back into position. That's basically what Reform UK is. It's taking the worst of the Conservative Party, rebranding it, sticking it through a washing machine and taking it out the other side, or a car wash. Maybe a car wash is a better analogy. Running it through a car wash comes out, nice and clean. It's still the same car, okay? It still has the same advantages and disadvantages, or pros and cons, but it's looking shiny and new, even though nothing has really changed. And, this is going to be the way forward. The people who burnt the city to the ground, burnt the forest to the ground, are the ones who should be in charge now of fire safety. David McGuinness, thanks so much for that super job. What country? The UK is a state, a union of countries. But I don't think the Conservatives see it like that. Something I love about the Conservatives is that they will say that Scotland is both too important and too weak to leave the union.
Education Secretary, Chancellor of the Exchequer, a lot went wrong in the end, but it took us 14 years. I mean, this lot's taking them, 18 months?
It's like, it took us 14 years to run Britain into the ground. And look, Labour are doing it in 18. But maybe that would be an advantage. They were more efficient in running the country into we were really terrible at running the country into the ground. It took us so much longer.
I can't believe every morning I wake up and, what happened last night with Chris Wormald, who's the most senior civil servant? This guy is...
This is a guy who was defending Boris Johnson. Remember Boris Johnson lying in Parliament, lying to the media, lying to the public, lying to everyone, his own party even, and Nadine Zawahiri was supporting him at every turn. And now he's saying, well, look at this party, look at this Labour government.
Cabinet secretary. The machine doesn't work.
Anyway, I want to move on.
Watched him on the international stage. Impressed me in Norwich, and then I get a phone call saying, and then make the big. All that stuff needs fixing, in my view. We have a national emergency. We're going to enact national that gets 66,000 illegal men of fighting age from some of the worst war zones, worst places in the world. They'd call it a national emergency. It'd be like the pandemic. Right, the Prime Minister would go on television. We have a national emergency. We're going to enact national emergency legislation to stop this.
These people don't understand what a national emergency is. So he wants, and we've heard this before from Reform, we need to have a national emergency. Do they actually understand what a national emergency is? It would suspend human rights, suspend the right to protest. It would suspend a lot of privileges and freedoms that people have. You would pretty much turn the UK into a police state for a period of time. Would Reform be okay with that? They're always complaining about how Keir Starmer is acting like some sort of dictator. And now they want to give him extra powers. Because if you have a state of emergency, you have extra powers. He could suspend Parliament as a result of that. Would they be happy with that? Of course not. They're just throwing out these things because it sounds cool. I've said before as a joke, Keir Starmer should leave the European Convention on Human Rights for a day. And during those 24 hours, he should ban Reform UK and put Nigel Farage in jail. You'd probably ask, well, what's the charge? It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to have a charge. Because he has suspended the European Convention on Human Rights. So Nigel Farage would no longer be protected, for example, from unlawful imprisonment. Because the convention would be gone. So it's like, put them all in jail. But this is what they keep asking for. So every time Reform UK is complaining about the ECHR, well then the Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, should leave the convention, put these people in prison, and say, "Do you still want us to be outside the ECHR?" Okay, it's a suggestion. I'm not saying that he would do it, but, test it out. See how much they start complaining about the ECHR after that. Suella Braverman, another one, keeps complaining, we need to leave the ECHR, we need to leave the ECHR. Okay, we'll leave it for a day. Put you in prison. Without due process. We'll close down GB News. Shut it down tomorrow. Gone. Blocked from the airwaves. They want to leave the ECHR.
But what would that legislation be, Mr. Zahawi? How would you stop it?
I can tell you very, very strict. When I was in cabinet, right, and I was then
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about the things that I didn't do that I'd like to be able to do, even though I didn't do them.
In the cabinet office, we had to come out from the European Convention on Human Rights. You can't do it otherwise, because actually, even a
Once again, please, if Keir Starmer is watching this, leave the ECHR just for 24 hours. You don't have to leave it for the whole time. Just leave it for 24 hours and throw Nigel Farage, Nadine Zouari, everyone from GB News, Reform UK, throw them in jail because they want their rights to be taken away. Throw them in jail. And then re-enter the ECHR and then ask, do you want your rights protected again? Do you want to appeal your jail time?
Derogation. Some of my colleagues, Ben Wallace was saying last night, but you could have a derogation. It's rubbish, right? You've got to come out, because what will happen is the lawyers will tie you up in knots in the courts. Nothing will happen, right? If those people coming across know that within 24 hours they're being processed in Rwanda, right, they won't come across.
Oh, my goodness. He's still talking about Rwanda. They're still talking about Rwanda. Rwanda is gone. The country is still there, of course, but the Rwanda scheme is gone. It's dead. It's buried. It's not coming back. Is this what Reform UK are going to do? They're going to resuscitate the Rwanda scheme, even though we know that it's unlawful to send people to Rwanda because it's not a safe country.
You'd bring back Rwanda?
I would, or a similar sort of process, offshore process.
Okay, a similar one. You better not say Rwanda. It's just a similar thing. We'll have something similar. Like what? We'll send people to the, what's the name of the islands? The ones in the middle of the Atlantic. Damn it, I've forgotten the name. Where there's no infrastructure apart from a military base. And there's, there are more penguins there than there are people.
Processing, right? What we can't have is what we've got at the moment is literally, just think about this, 60,000 men of fighting age
Ascension Island, thanks so much.
The worst places in the world are living in hotels. They're going to move them out of hotels because it's a PR spin thing, right? Put them in.
This guy is completely unhinged. Like, I thought he was bad when he was a Tory, but now he's gone completely unhinged. It's like, yeah, he's just sat down in some sort of, I don't know, convention at Reform and said, these are the talking points. Just keep regurgitating the talking points. We need to deport people. We need to process them offshore. We need to do this. It doesn't matter if it's actually logical or true or lawful. No, it doesn't matter. Just keep saying these things. If you say them enough, people will believe them.
HMOs, houses in multiple occupancy, to then, we have a government that basically is run by press release.
You're sounding like a political equivalent of Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Is he right what he said?
He was right. I think...
choice of words?
Let me be very frank here. Most people in Reform UK do not know who Nadine Zouari is. Okay? Jim Ratcliffe said that Britain is being colonised. A lot of people in Reform UK believe that Jim Ratcliffe is correct, that Britain is being colonised. Now, do you think, and this is an honest question, people in the chat, you can respond if you want. Do you think if you're a Reform UK supporter and you saw Nadine Zouari on the street, do you think he would have been, and he didn't speak, you just saw him walking, do you think your average Reform UK supporter or member would believe he's an immigrant? Or do you think they would believe that he's a British man? That's an honest question. I'm of the idea that most people in Reform UK, if they saw Nadine Zouari on the street and they didn't know exactly who he was or they didn't hear him speak, they would probably assume that he's an immigrant. And they would say that Nadine Zouari should be deported. I'm being honest here. I can guarantee it. We all know that. Rich and unhinged, yes. Well said, David. Probably Nadine Zawari would not be walking on the street. He would be chauffeur driven in a Range Rover or in a Rolls Royce, like his boss. QA, thank you so much for that super chat. Did you see the new poster outside Manchester United ground? No, I did not. I must check that out. Is it from? Is it the one where they have like 2 players which are white and then the rest are all blacked out because they're immigrants? Or 2 of them are British. I'm not sure which it is. Of course they would. And they would come for me, but there was no one left to speak out for me. Nadine Zawari is aligning himself with the wrong type of people, but I don't think he either cares about that or he's probably saying, "Well, look, I'm rich, I'm okay, I'm all right, Jack."
I don't know whether you saw my tweet at 6 a.m. When I saw the headlines. I think there's one word that you can argue he could have chosen a better word.
The word being colonised,
but ultimately, right, if you've got 12 million people that have come in between...
Nadine Zawari was born in Iraq. You know... Wasn't he born in Iraq? Nadine Zawari is the wrong kind sort of people. Ladies and gentlemen, Audu, Nadim, Warm Horses Zawari. Max is Larry Mass today. Sing happy birthday for all the lovely viewers. Sir Larry, Larrymas, is it Larry's birthday today? Then I have to sing happy birthday to Larry. Okay, so once again, everyone, fingers in the ears. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Sir Larry the Cat. Happy birthday to you. Thank you very much for that, and I hope that wasn't too bad. Radcliffe runs a company producing rubbish, dumping toxic waste, and overpaying shoddy employees. But enough about Man United. Let's talk. Yes. Nice, Brad. Well done.
2000, right? You got his dates wrong slightly.
He meant 2000, not 2020.
Right. 12 million people. There's
a bit of a difference between 2000 and 2020.
Great friend Rob Jenrick said yesterday, more people have come in from the time Tony Blair took office to today than the
Nadine Zawari is an immigrant. Why is he complaining about immigrants? Why hasn't he self-deported?
Previous 1,000 years. 12 million people is an extraordinary thing to happen to any culture, any country.
But as far as I know, he was born in Iraq. There must be some sort of machine that makes people's brains dead when they deform. They all seem to be zapped by something. It's the license to be hateful. Like, I have no problem with Nadine Zawari. If Nadine Zawari wants to live in Britain, if he's an immigrant, if he was born in Britain, I don't see any difference there. But Reform certainly do. Reform are like, we don't want immigrants here. We don't want foreigners here. Unless they're ones who donate to Reform UK, then those ones are all right. So no doubt Nadine Zawari brings some money to the table. Thanks, Kirsty. And I think it's, once again, it's a bit like MAGA in the US, where MAGA has allowed people to be racist and not suffer any consequences. That's it. Because in the past, if you think the last 20 odd years, we've moved away from, there was a time where you could be mean to gay people and get away with it. Not get away with it. Then there was a time when now it's all changed because of MAGA and Trump and Farage to a certain extent. But there was a period before, back in the 80s, 90s, where you could be mean to gay people and get away with it. Then we became more progressive, I thought, more understanding, more humane, I think, more decent. I would call it decency. Some people would call it wokeness. I call it decency, common decency. Where, hey, stop being insulting to this individual or that individual. when we think about people who are homeless or people who are poor, we think about what are they going through, as opposed to, just insulting them. And now it seems that the people who wanted just to insult somebody who's not impacting their lives in any way, be it an immigrant or a foreigner or homeless person or somebody from a minority group, those people always wanted to have a free license to insult others, and Reform UK and Trump allows that. It even supports them. Max 110%. Zawahiri was born in Iraq, typical immigrant pulling the ladder up. But would people, if people saw him on the streets, they would say, well, he's an immigrant, he needs to go. But as soon as they find out he's from Reform, it's like, well, then he must be rich. So it's okay, he can stay.
Walk down the Edgware Road, Nick. Walk down, parts of Birmingham. Walk down, lots of parts.
Wouldn't it have been great if if I was speaking to Nadine Zawahiri, I'd say, where were you born? I was born in Iraq. Oh, are you planning to go back? You keep complaining about immigrants. No, but I'm one of the good ones. Okay. Why? Because I work. Okay, and most immigrants work. It's very difficult for immigrants not to work. Yeah, but I contribute a lot. But they contribute as well. Maybe not all of them pay a huge amount of tax. Oh no, well, you don't pay your taxes.
Parts of our country, you wouldn't recognise them. I would much rather see, like my parents did, integrate. Right? Be proud of this country.
What do you mean your parents? You moved. You're the immigrant. You integrated. Great. But who's saying that people should not integrate?
You come here. If you come here, you should absolutely absorb our culture.
Is it the fault of the folk living in Bradford and Leicester and Blackburn? Is it their fault? Why is it that they're not integrated?
Well, I think it's a combination of a government that's always, both local government and central government, shied away from being muscular about...
You chaired the party that
I don't...
Sorry, muscular. Integration is a two-way street. You should help people integrate, but you should also integrate yourself. So the people coming should integrate. Of course, it's better for them and it's better for the community. And I've said this on 100 occasions. People should integrate into a society that they move into. It's better for them. They learn the language, they learn the cultures, they understand how things operate. And it's better for the culture because you have less friction. But what have the Tories done to help people integrate? Well, austerity was one approach to helping people integrate. Cuts to public services, cuts to language support, cuts to councils to help people integrate. And now that many people are not integrating, once again, it's a two-way street. People need to integrate themselves, but they also need support in many cases. If the community wants them to integrate fully, they have to provide support. But the Tories cut a lot of this support. So you don't get to turn around now and say, hey, these people are not integrating. We stopped them. We refused to support them integrating, and now they're not integrating, and it's their fault. No, Nadine, you don't get away with doing that. Guys, I have been speaking way too much tonight. And there were a few stories I wanted to cover and I wasn't able to cover them. I just want to do one more before we go because I'll finish with this. Maybe I shouldn't finish with this. But it's Reform replacing old fuddy-duddy Tory party, says Farage. Okay. So Farage is describing the Conservative Party as fuddy-duddy. Yeah, the Conservative Party is fuddy-duddy, but what you're replacing it with is, I would much prefer fuddy-duddy, and I think most people would prefer fuddy-duddy. Reform UK is replacing the old fuddy-duddy Conservative Party, leader Nigel Farage has told the BBC. Senior Conservatives, including sitting MPs Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick and Danny Kruger, as well as former Chancellor Nadine Zawahiri, have defected to Reform in recent months. Farage now has more of the former Prime Minister Liz Truss's cabinet in his own party than the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has in her current shadow cabinet. But when asked by the BBC's Nick Robinson on the Radio 4 Political Thinking if this meant that Reform are morphing into the latest version of the Conservatives, Farage said it was no surprise MPs were choosing to jump ship. They're jumping ship because they have nowhere else to go. They're once again, the trash of the Conservative Party are going into the bin, the recycle bin, which is Reform UK. That's it. There's nothing more to it than that. You know, the trash, people who have no opportunities left in life, people who are incompetent, people who couldn't win a general election, win their seat, hold on to their seat, or win their seat. These people are going to Reform. That's it. There's nothing more about it. They're willing to sell their souls to the devil, otherwise known as Nigel Farage, in order to get back into power or to have some sort of cushy number or to have some money on the side. David, thanks so much for that super chat. They ghettoized is sectioned areas in the 70s. It affected property prices. That's very interesting as well. So they stuck people into different parts of the city and then refused to provide those areas with sufficient funding. And of course, you saw a rise in poverty, which had a cumulative effect where people were not able to get out of poverty because they had been born in poverty. And it was, and then the poorest areas would not get the funding they needed because, well, politicians said there was no point spending money there. Or you had a situation where the Conservatives saw, well, these poorer areas, let's definitely not give them money because if they end up improving the situation, they're not, the other party, the Labour Party at the time, would benefit from that. Braverman and the rest need medical attention. Braverman in particular, yes. So guys, we're at the end of the stream tonight. I want to say thank you so much to everyone who came on. Unfortunately, I won't be on the post-stream chat or the pre-stream chat today, but I hope to see you on Tuesday. So I want to wish everyone a wonderful weekend. But before we go, we have our one for the road. So I hope you enjoy this. It's a little bit of an old one, but you should enjoy it anyway. So I want to say thanks to everyone who sent a super chat. Greatly appreciated. The moderators for doing a wonderful job as always. Thank you for listening to my singing. I'm sorry. I'll try and inflict it upon you guys as least as possible, or as less as possible, whatever the right way of saying that is. And I'll leave you with this one, so hope you enjoy it.
Colin from Portsmouth is on the line. Hello, Colin.
Every time I see a rainbow, I want to punch it.
Sorry, a rainbow? What have rainbows done to you, Colin?
Well, nothing yet, but their ideology has spoiled what would otherwise be a very pretty weather phenomenon.
Yeah.
And you see more of them these days, of course. I dread clear and sunny periods after rainfall. Dread them!
Well, you know, they are just a harmless natural weather event, Colin, which we should accept.
You would say that in your metropolitan elite ivory bubble tower. Rainbows have been weaponised, and this country has just stood by and let it happen. Time was a good old-fashioned British leprechaun could sit humbly at the end of one, minding his own business, but now the gays have come in, built a gaudy pub, and imprisoned him in a BDSM sex dungeon built using his own pot of gold.
Sorry, Colin, what is wrong with colours? Although, don't answer that, Colin, don't answer that.
I don't mind a bit of reflection, refraction and dispersion, but not when it's forced down my throat.
Fair enough.
Anyway, mate, thanks for having me on. Love to the family.
Love to the family, Colin, love to the family. What is acceptable weather in your book, then?
There's nothing straighter than a hurricane, in my view. That's proper wind.
Well, the last one was called Hurricane Quincy.
They've taken our storms now!
Oh my goodness. So guys, have a great weekend. I will see you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. Stay safe, take care, and good night.